If we're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers, though, I think that one of the biggest question marks that I have about this game is about Bryce Young. And this is a question that I've had for a very long time when it comes to rookie quarterbacks, especially in the past few drafts. If we're doing a little bit of a draft retrospective here, do you think that it's better to have rookie quarterbacks come in and start, or do you think it's better to sit them as rookies and let them learn a little bit? So let me just run you through a couple of negatives, a couple of positives, and then we're going to talk about it. Like, just because of, there's a wide margin of whether or not these number one overall picks come in and be successful. I mean, on the negative side, you have JJ McCarthy right now. He's hurt again, hasn't looked fantastic in the first round. Came in, this was his rookie season, played well week 1, played not so well week 2, is going to be sitting for a little bit behind Carson Wentz. I think that's the best thing for him. Cam Ward is 0-4. He is one of the lowest QBRs in league history at the moment. He plays for the Tennessee Titans. They have no offensive line, which is another question that you could ask when it comes to these rookie quarterbacks in general. Bryce Young, a guy that you've seen flashes from now 2 years in the NFL. 3 years. This is year 3 for him, right? 3 years in the NFL, you've seen flashes of him being a good quarterback, but the fact of the matter is he's been at the bottom tier of quarterbacks for the entirety of his career. Anthony Richardson got benched by a guy who could not win games in New York for 3 years on a $100 million contract, gets over to the Colts, and now Daniel Jones is the starter. AR-15 doesn't seem like he has a way to get into that starting quarterback role anymore after being disappointing his first few years. Will Levis, another Titans quarterback drafted in the second round, puts mayo in his coffee, so I can see why they sat him because of that. But other than that, he was a really bad quarterback for a few years. Mac Jones, a quarterback who was a Pro Bowler as a rookie quarterback and is now a backup on the San Francisco 49ers. Wow, thinking about baseball already. San Francisco 49ers. And is kind of having a little bit of a resurgence this year, but looked really poor in his third year with the Patriots, and then moving on forward has now become a perennial backup. And then guys who just get drafted to the Browns in general, like Baker Mayfield was one of those guys. Johnny Manziel was one of those guys. I mean, Baker's turned it around, we obviously know, in Tampa Bay. So are these examples more about the rookie quarterback? Is it more about the system that they get drafted to? Is it more about the offensive line? And is it more about building confidence? I think these are all questions when it comes to rookies. But what do you think your take is on rookie quarterbacks coming in and starting?
Well, I think that there's so many examples of guys who have done this and were thrown into the fire and it didn't work. A guy like Sam Bradford comes to mind, right? Obviously, You said Baker Mayfield struggled in his first couple seasons, and I don't really know if it was his fault. Sam Darnold struggled in his first couple seasons, and that's because he was thrown right into the fire, right?
Yep.
So sometimes it just takes going to a new team and not having that pressure of being the guy anymore that unleashes these quarterbacks' full potentials, just like what we're seeing in Daniel Jones right now. But I think that there are a lot of negative examples, and I think that it has to do with whether or not it's a development piece.
Okay.
AR-15 is a guy that you drafted as a guy who you knew was super young. It was going to take him a couple of years to figure it out.
Yep.
But you threw him into the fire and didn't really let him sit. So I think it's a really case-to-case kind of thing.
Okay.
But for the most part, quarterbacks in the NFL never walked in on day one and were starters until recently. So it's a pretty recent trend that we've seen that happen. And it's failed a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys that you see just don't really end up working out. The problem is the ones who you do see it from, where they walk on day one and are the guy, have very long and successful careers in the NFL. Like, there's equally as many positive examples in the NFL right now. Jaden Daniels won Offensive Rookie of the Year last year. He's the guy. Joe Burrow is on his way to be, if he can stay healthy, being up there with the best quarterbacks in Bengals history, which is actually a pretty good bunch of guys.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert has been the guy since day one. Bo Nix walked in last year and made sure that he was the guy from day one. Drake May on the Patriots. Josh Allen on the flip side, he walked in on day one. It took him a couple years, and now he's the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yep.
You can even look back on guys like Peyton Manning. He sucked in his first season with the Colts. He was garbage. And then he became one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So I think that there are successful examples, and I think a lot of these guys put these people out on the field with the idea of they are going to be our guy from day one, and then they prove whether or not they can do it. Now, if you want to talk about the positives of guys who have sat, Aaron Rodgers sat for a couple of years behind Brett Favre.
Mhm.
Patrick Mahomes sat behind
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith in Kansas
Yep.
City. Tom Brady sat behind Drew Bledsoe, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, there are examples of sitting back and being like, okay, we're going to see if you have it, especially the later you look in history. But I think in modern day NFL, all of these coaches put these guys out that they drafted because they're going to know whether or not it's their guy for the first 8 weeks of the season.
Well,
I
it's
think in
also
this-
like
in-
they want a guy that's going to save their job. You know, these guys who are drafting in the first round, like they're drafting quarterbacks that they're praying and hoping are going to pan out because they need some sort of something to cling to continue to be paid as a head coach. And then
Well,
if you lose, you could also point to them and be like, "Oh, well, we have a rookie quarterback. Don't worry about it. He's going to develop. We'll be fine."
yeah,
Right?
I think
Brian
that's the-
Daboll's been doing that for 4 years in New
I think
York.
that's sometimes the case, but if it like Justin Herbert he had Brendan Staley as his head coach.
Yeah, and he
for
kept him there for
years.
3 years. Yeah.
But that was not because of Herbert.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. That was because of the Chargers management. I mean, Drake May was a rookie last year, and Gerard Mayo got fired.
Yeah.
So I see your point to an extent, but I
Mhm.
think that really what these front office guys are looking at are, okay, this guy's available. We're going to know if he's our guy from year one.
Yeah.
And if not, then we're going to kind of have a couple years where we're going to suck. But the examples of it being positive have worked out really well from what we've seen. So it's hard to say whether or not you should sit them or start them. My answer is it's something you should know by the end of training camp. And if you
Okay.
don't, that's when you have a serious problem.
Okay. Fair enough. Let me bounce another question off of you when it comes to this, because I'm gonna bounce some quarterbacks and you're gonna tell me whether or not they're a boom or a bust coming off of their starting week one type of scenario. And it's gonna be tough because these guys are a little bit more in the middle. But a question that I have for you is we toss around the label generational talent all the time.
Okay.
When is the last time a generational quarterback talent panned out from week one? Is it
Probably
Andrew Luck?
I would say it's Joe Burrow.
Okay.
He missed his whole first season, broke his
Yep.
leg, and then he came out and went to the Super Bowl in his second. I would say Joe
Fair.
Burrow.
Okay. Sounds good. That was a good answer. Here we go. We're going to talk boom or bust for question mark quarterbacks who either started their first game or started a game their rookie season. Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I would say bust here. He was drafted in the same class as Justin Herbert. Obviously, Lawrence does have a playoff win. Justin Herbert doesn't.
Yep.
But when you look at those two quarterbacks, you know who's the guy and who still has to prove some things. And if you're in year 5 and you don't even really have like a definitive I'm the guy outlook, you're probably not a boom. So I'm going to go bust for Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. CJ Stroud.
Stroud's a guy that you just don't really know, I think. I mean,
Yep.
you've seen what he's capable of. We've talked about it 4 out of the 5 shows that we've done so far,
Mhm.
but you haven't seen it from him since his rookie year. I think he's had a lot happen around him, and he's still incredibly young. So for me, I can't say bust yet, but he certainly hasn't boomed.
Okay. I think he may have boomed his rookie season, which is one of the biggest question marks about him. But moving forward, we will continue to talk about CJ Stroud because he is the biggest story with that Houston Texans team and like what went wrong for the past 3 years. A guy who's bounced around a bunch, Justin Fields.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Jets quarterback and you're 0-4, it's really hard to say boom, right?
Yeah.
It felt like in Chicago, he kind of was starting to figure it out right before he was booted. Didn't play at all in Pittsburgh last year. He's been good from a solo perspective on the Jets, but they haven't won. I think I'm going to say bust just because it's going to be so hard for him to. I think that he is a talented quarterback, but he's never going to play on a team that will be surrounded by good pieces or where he will be able to figure it out and like get them in the playoff hunt. So I'm going to say bust for Justin Fields.
Okay. Let's talk about his quarterback replacement next, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Caleb Williams, you can't say is a bust because
Agreed.
he was a Bears rookie.
Yep.
You just can't say it. He's looked, honestly, pretty
Way
incredible
better.
through the first 4
Way
weeks
better.
of the season.
Yep.
But his expectations were so high coming into the league that he also hasn't exceeded those yet. So
Mhm.
I would say on trending towards boom, but haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams is another one of those guys that had the generational quarterback label, right? So you were
Mhm.
looking for him to probably do more than he has, and that's taken away from the fact that he just threw for like 290 yards 2 weeks ago. You know
Yeah,
what I
but
mean?
that
Like, that
might be
just is
our
what it
fault
is.
too. Like he's still a
Agreed.
rookie quarterback on
Agreed.
the Chicago Bears. So the fact that he's even creating noise is better than they've had in years.
Yeah, and the
Mitchell
last
Trubisky also got a playoff win. So like
correct.
let's
Let's
figure
tone
it
it
out
down.
here.
Yeah. The last two guys both sat a little bit their rookie season and came in around like week 10 or 11, I want to say. Jordan Love.
Jordan Love sat for 2 seasons behind Aaron Rodgers. He's
Yeah.
been in the league for kind of a while. He's another guy that I think hasn't really had the tools to boom yet, but
Okay.
every year they get consistently better with him at the helm. So I would also put him in that trending towards boom category, but we just haven't reached it yet.
All right. And the last one here that I have listed is Michael Penix Jr.
Michael Penix Jr. is honestly kind of a really hard guy to judge, right? He went in the first round. I think he went 9th overall to the Falcons.
Yep.
But before he went to the college football playoff, no one was really looking at him as a guy that was first-round potential starting
Well,
quarterback
because
in
he's
the
like
NFL potential.
24. He was 24 coming
He's
into
old.
the NFL.
He's
Yeah.
old. He's left-handed, which
Mhm.
obviously isn't that big a deal, but people talk about it.
Okay.
So I think you expected him to kind of be a bust, to be honest with you, and I think that he's exceeded that expectation. He's at least exceeded my expectations. I don't ever think that we'll see him as like the guy as like a big boom. I think he'll just be a quarterback in the NFL for a little bit. So I mean, I think mid is my rating that I'm going to give him.
All right. Fair. That was a really good talk. We're going to continue with the kind of boomer bust label, and we're going to do a little bit of an overreaction right here when we talk about the 2025 NFL draft. So
actually, I got a couple guys I want to throw at you about these because
Please
I know that
do.
we did a lot of NFL draft talk going
Yep.
into it. And I mean, before the season, we talked a ton. We had a whole episode themed about one of these guys, and he's the one that I'm going to throw at you first.
Mhm.
About a month and a half ago, we did an episode about Travis Hunter,
Yep.
talking about whether or not he was going to be good. As you mentioned, was in the forefront of the media, won the Heisman last year, picked by the Jaguars at the 3rd overall pick.
Yep.
But he's played less than 25% of snaps and only has, 13 receptions for 118 yards this season. Are we concerned about his output, or do you think he'll be all right?
I'm definitely concerned about that 25% stat, right? Because the biggest thing when it comes to Travis Hunter was talking about his defensive versatility. And him playing under 25% of your defensive snaps every single game is something that you can look at and be like, that's not what we drafted him for. We didn't draft Travis Hunter to be a wide receiver 1. I'm sorry. He's not better than Brian Thomas Jr. He is a good receiver. I think that with the targets that he's had and some of the games that he's had and who's throwing him the ball, he hasn't looked fantastic offensively. But that being said, he was never big enough to be your wide receiver 1. You drafted him for his two-way potential. And it seems like, especially with some of the comments between him and the head coach, Cohen, there is some sort of a mental disconnect, a gap there between him and the coaching staff when it comes to how many snaps he's getting on offense and how many snaps he's getting on defense. And I do think that's concerning if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So are you saying boom or bust with him?
At the moment, I think he's a bust. I think that going into the season, we kind of had him pegged as a guy that we weren't stoked about, right? Like he seemed like a guy who had the most bust potential out of any of the surefire prospects at the top of the draft. Now, that being said, he has shown flashes, but flashes offensively doesn't justify you being a 3rd overall pick. Because if you were drafting him to just be a receiver, Teteroa McMillan was 4 picks behind and has looked really good with a worse quarterback in Carolina, in my opinion. So if you're going to figure this out for Travis Hunter, you have to get him on the field defensively. And he can't be getting cooked defensively when he is on the field. I haven't watched a ton of Jacksonville Jaguars film or games.
Nor do you have any reason to.
Correct. And people who have been watching the games have said that he's been doing okay, which is fine, right? Like he's kind of developing. Is he a fantasy football guy that you should pick up? No. Is he going to boom offensively? Probably not. But the biggest thing with him was, like I said, that two-way potential. So can he realize that two-way potential? At the moment, I'm saying no, the way that he's being coached.
All right, boomer bust on this next guy. He had a breakout week this week with 140 yards and a touchdown. Ashton Jeanty.
Oh, I'm all in. I think he's going to boom here. I think that this offense has very little to do other than just hand him the ball 20 times a game. And when they do that, he looks explosive and versatile, and he's doing it behind a really poor offensive line. I think that he has a ton of boom potential if they just hand him the rock. It's the same kind of way with Bijan Robinson, where you drafted a guy in the first round and you expected him to take the helm, then you only gave him the rock 8 times a game, right? Like, you're not going to get that type of production out of a guy who is a generational talent at running back if you don't hand him the ball off. Do I think Ashton Jeanty is as good as Bijan? No. But I think that he could be better than Josh Jacobs for this Las Vegas Raiders team if you just give him the ball. So I'm excited to see what happens here, but I think that I'm seeing a lot of really good flashes from Ashton Jeanty, who's a guy that can get you 3 to 4 yards a carry, despite the fact that their offensive line is non-existent.
All right, next guy, boomer bust on Cam Ward, 0-4 through his first 4 games as starting quarterback.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see it with him. I mean, he has had one of the worst QBRs in the history of the NFL, like I said, through his first 4 games. He has no one to throw to. He has no offensive line to protect him. But this is how quarterbacks lose confidence, and this is how rookie quarterbacks go from being really highly touted prospects to guys that are out of a starting job in 2 to 3 years. I don't see him as being the answer.
Do you think that it's a system problem?
Certainly.
Or do you think that it's a Cam Ward problem?
I think it's more so a system problem. I think that you could put any offensive player behind that offensive line and they would not be able to perform well. But that being said, if you're a veteran quarterback and you go into that situation, you can come out of it being like, oh, I'm a vet. I've done this before. I know what I'm doing. I'll be okay. Cam Ward has never lost like this in his life. And at the same time, he has kind of taken it on the chin. He's been like, we've been playing really poorly. We're going to step it up as it goes on. But I just simply don't see it for this Tennessee Titans team.
All right. Teteroa McMillan.
I think this guy's good.
18 receptions, 280 yards.
No touchdowns, which is the biggest concern with him. But he's looked great. He's looked really good. And the guy who's throwing him the ball is Bryce Young. And he's missing a lot of his targets. I don't know if you saw the game. I mean, obviously you watched the Patriots game. I did too, right? But he was going against Christian Gonzalez, who's a top, 10, 3, 5 cornerback in the NFL when he's fully healthy. And he was getting to his spots, I felt like. I think that there is a ton of potential with him. And despite the fact that Emeka Egbuka has probably been the best receiver in the NFL draft so far with Baker Mayfield throwing him the ball, Teteroa McMillan has shown me a ton of flashes to say he's going to be a top 1 receiver on a team someday.
Yeah, and that's the next guy that's the next guy. Well, he is already. That's the next guy I was going to go to. In my opinion, the person who's kind of shined the most out of this draft, Emeka Egbuka.
Yep. I think he's been a huge bright spot for a team that has 2 really aging receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. And I mean, this is the future of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is an Ohio State guy. Nonetheless, these are the best receivers in the draft right now. Is Ohio State wide receiver you? Is it LSU? That's kind of the question that's been going back and forth. The answer right now is, I think, Ohio State. Emeka Egbuka looks fantastic, and I'm excited to see what happens in Tampa Bay because, bro, they have so many weapons. They have so many weapons when they're all healthy.
Ooh, but I like LSU out. Brian Thomas and Jamar Chase. Yet Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry. Maybe we're going
Justin
out of
Jefferson.
LSU. Yeah, into those are 3 of the top 10 receivers in the NFL right there.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. I mean, Ohio State has Terry McLaurin,
Chris
Garrett
Olave,
Wilson, Chris Olave, Mika
Jackson
Buka,
Smith,
Michael
and Jigba.
Thomas, JS. Okay, it's Ohio State. It's Ohio State. It is. Yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah. Okay, all right. It's Ohio State.